What's up, everybody? What's up? It's Piers Austin. I am the host, and this is Shooting the Shit Uncensored, and we are brought to you live by Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook and on YouTube. I was actually just vibing out to my own entrance music. What a fucking mark that I am. But tonight, I've got a very special guest. She is the Russian dynamite, Masha Slamovich. But before I bring out Masha, I want to have a couple of quick seconds to thank some wonderful sponsors, from people that make this show possible, who keep the lights on up in this bitch. Let's get started. First off is A-Rock Designs. Now, A-Rock Designs is that company that you are seeing everywhere in all the wrestling groups, all the wrestling pages. They make custom cups, hoodies, keychains, t-shirts, tumblers. They made me this custom CM Punk tumbler because everyone knows I'm a huge CM Punk mark. I absolutely love it. This thing is huge. They make stuff that isn't wrestling related as well, so head over, check them out. Speak to my good friend Ashley Rodriguez, and she will hook you up with an amazing deal and an amazing product. My next sponsor is Signal Studios. So if you're an independent professional wrestler, you need some new entrance music, you need something and some new jams to walk to the ring, hit up Signal Studios. They are a Sydney-based studio here in Sydney, run by one of my really close friends, Rafi Tomasi, and he can mix, master, and send you out any type of song that you are after. Or if you're a musician or a band here in Sydney, Australia, and you need a place to rehearse or record, they have the most comfortable setup possible where you can go there and get your creative juices flowing. Now, also my third sponsor, which I don't have an image for because, well, they've been a little bit slack, but we still love them, and that is WASAF Championship Belts. That's WASIF Championship Belts. Listen, if you're a wrestling fan, which we all are, and let's face it, if you're watching this show, you are a wrestling fan, but all wrestling fans either own championship belts or want to own a championship belt. So if you want to get your hands on a custom championship belt, or you want to get your hands on your favorite replica championship belts, head over to WASAF Championship Belts and get yours today. They have an amazing payment plan where you can pay as little as $30 to $40 per month until that belt is paid off and in your hot little hands, and you're walking around with it going, I'm the champion. I don't do that with my belts sometimes when the wife and kids aren't here, but anyway. But guys, I digress. Tonight I'm going to bring out my guest. She's joining us all the way from Japan. This is Masha. How you going tonight?
Hi, I am doing rather well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a little bit past 11:30 p.m. here, and I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you. I've been looking at some of the stuff that you've been doing, and I really enjoy your wrestling style. It's not your normal wrestling, women's wrestling style of style that you have, and I really dig it, and I really want to get into it. But first off, like, did you grow up as a wrestling fan your whole life? Was it something that you always wanted to be a part of?
Absolutely. I say this on like several podcasts, but I just remember being like a really young kid. I was like 4 years old. I don't even know, maybe a little bit younger, maybe 4. But I just remember seeing wrestling on TV, and that was it. Like, I knew from that moment, I had never had to question what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Like, in that moment, I was like, that's it. I'm going to be a wrestler. And I was a fan ever since then.
And who were some of the guys or guys and girls that you really looked up to and really inspired you to get into the business?
Well, I have two different categories between people who I was a fan of purely, and then like people who inspired me. When I was a kid, I was a huge Undertaker fan, and I still am. But clearly, me being 5'3", I'm not going to go out there and wrestle like the Undertaker. So I found myself inspired by people like Chris Benoit. It's probably a little bit of that Napoleon complex where it's like, I'm small, but I'm still tough. And I guess that was something that I could relate to from a young age, as well as just, I was always kind of aggressive my entire life. So seeing that style in a wrestling ring, I was like, yeah, that's definitely a lot like me.
But growing up, you said that obviously you're short, and I can't really talk because I'm 5'6", so I'm not exactly the tallest. But did you find when you growing up being small, was that something that you were picked on growing up, and that was why you had that chip on your shoulder?
I wouldn't say I was picked on for being short. I was picked on for other things. And being short kind of came along with that. It's like, oh well, you're also short, so what are you gonna do about it? And well, they found out what I was gonna do about it. Needless to say.
Yeah, fair enough. Stephen Fuller, who's watching from the US, he's saying that you're pretty scrappy, so he's definitely a fan of yours. But
He's not
you know,
wrong.
but getting into professional wrestling, you've trained at the Gleason's gym, which is, one of the most world famous professional wrestling gyms and boxing gyms. And it's been run by, the wrestling side of things has been run by Johnny Rodz, WWE/WWF Hall of Famer. How did you find, Gleason's and start, your journey into the world of pro wrestling?
So I was 16 years old, and between doing sports my entire life, I could just never let go of wanting to wrestle. And I figured at 16, I was old enough to finally start. So I pretty much just Googled like wrestling schools in my area in New York City. And Johnny Rodz came up, and I was taking a look at the ones, like the two ones that were available, I guess, were House of Glory and Johnny Rodz. And I read into Johnny Rodz, and I gave him a phone call. Me being underage, obviously, he wouldn't really have a conversation with me. Told me to come down to the gym with one of my parents. So that led to me dragging my mother down there on a Saturday, and we stayed there for about 5 hours having a nice chat, and pretty much signed up 2 days after that.
Wow. And you come from a Russian background, so your parents and your family, how did they feel when you said, hey, I want to go and get into pro wrestling and I want to start this journey? Were they supportive of it, or they come from that strict Russian background?
My family was waiting for me to grow out of it for as long as possible. Ever since I was a kid, saying I'm going to be a wrestler, they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. You'll get older, you'll figure out that that's not it's not what you want to do. But I guess when I started pushing on my mother. She knew that I wasn't going to stop once I came to her with like a physical school instead of just having an idea. I had a place, a phone number, a person to talk to. And after we went down there, she knew that there was no turning back at that point. So she jumped on board with being supportive. And I'm pretty sure my father to this day thinks I'm insane and he hopes I'll quit.
But there's obviously no chance of that happening. I mean, you're over living abroad now in Japan, and really making a name for yourself, across the world. But getting in there and actually starting your training, how was that experience for you? Like, obviously being a young female, getting into the world of pro wrestling, did you find getting in there and picking things up challenging, or was it something that came naturally for you?
Thankfully for me, it came pretty naturally. I remember a lot of people, were surprised by how quickly I was picking things up. Of course, it also took a lot of practice. I was in there. Sometimes I was in there for like 12 hours, like on a Saturday. I was in there 6 days a week for the first 2 years of my career, essentially. So I can't say that I ever found it challenging. I do remember when we started learning holds, I was thinking to myself, like, God, I learned 3 holds today. And I'm like, in wrestling, there's like a million holds. How am I ever going to remember all of this? I was like, my memory is, and still is to this day, the shits. So I was like, I'm never going to remember this. That was the only time I thought to myself, like, oh, I might be in trouble. But, the physical aspect of it, being an athlete my entire life, I enjoyed the challenge, and I never really found it too difficult. Honestly, I enjoyed the grittiness of it.
And how has Johnny Rodz been in your career? Like, has he been very influential since the moment that you started training up until this point now?
I always say that I owe Johnny my career, because had it not been for me training there in the beginning, and the thing that specifically stood out about Johnny Rod's school was the attention to detail. It was, you do it until you do it perfectly, and then when you do it perfectly, you repeat it 100 more times, and then we're going to do it again and again. Like, the words "do it again" are like burned into the back of my mind, because there was no such thing as like, you'll get it tomorrow. It's like, you're going to get it down right now or 30 minutes from now, but you're going to get it down and it's going to be crisp. The footwork, everything, the logic. And me being a 16-year-old female at the gym, there wasn't many women there at the time. There was 3 other women there, and they had jobs, lives, they were adults at the time. So it was just me in there with like 40 other different guys who were just coming in training all the time, and that definitely added to me being scrappy, because I always wanted to be the best and be better than everybody else. So I also owe me being so intense to Johnny as well.
Yeah, and everyone that I've spoken to who's trained with Johnny says that he's so meticulous with his training, and with the promotion that the school runs, WUW, it's like, until he's really given you that stamp of approval to then go out on your own and go out to other promotions, he really tries to smarten, from what I've been told, he really tries to smarten his students up to the business in every aspect of it. So when they do go out into the great wide world, they're really prepared for it. And, some people pick things up quicker than others. Some people will pick up one thing faster than someone else. And, someone will, might take a little bit more time with one thing, but pick things up. But I think the overall, training and how they put things into it, from what I've been told from multiple people, is the attention to detail that Johnny puts in. He's not just, there's a lot of wrestling schools out there where it's like, yeah, no worries, we'll take your money, we'll show you a few holds, and then push you out the door, and you're good to go. Where they really invest in their students.
That is 100% true, especially the part where you said that, Johnny tries to smarten up his students before they go out into the world of wrestling, because if anyone's ever met Johnny who's watching, that Johnny talks in his Johnnyisms. He has his own way of explaining things. And, at the time you might be sitting there and listening and you're like, what, this is a little like, what's happening right now? But I swear to God, the amount of times in my career that I have said, damn, Johnny was right. And like, to this day, the amount of times I've said that this year is ridiculous, because all those stories that he tells, they all have a meaning. And if you just listen and like keep it in your mind, he is right. Like, all of those, it's all going to make sense one day. Just hang on to the information, be it talking with him in the office or the things he says in the ring. As he's one of the greatest trainers. He was personally, to me, the greatest person that I could have learned from.
And, when was the moment for you that you decided, okay, now it's time for me to go and really sort of dip my toe into the indies and other promotions, from WUW and Gleason's? How far into that? You said, I think it was about 2 years?
Pretty much. So it happens in a little bit of a strange fashion for me, because I had one illegal match at Johnny Rod's in WW, because I was 17 at the time and I couldn't wrestle in the state of New York. So we had me get a fake ID so we could just tell the commissioner that I was Brazilian, of all things, or I don't even remember what it was. But so I did that show, and literally I turned 18 like the next month, and Johnny Rod's had arranged for me to go wrestle my first tour in Japan. So my first match at 18 was happening in Tokyo, and I would continue touring with Reina ProWrestling from July until mid-August of 2016. And then I came back to the States. I was still doing shows with WW, but pretty quickly, I would say probably in September, I already started working independent shows, because I knew you're going from Gleason's and then you go to somewhere like Japan, you can't just come back and stay, doing school shows. And
Yeah.
even people in Japan told me, they were like, listen, you need to go back home and do the indies. They're like, you can't, now that you've started, you can't stop. So I figured I better take their advice, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. And was Johnny cool with that? Like you going out and dipping your toe in and getting involved in other promotions?
At first, he was how he is,
Yeah.
and later on, he became a lot more supportive. Now of course, he's supportive of everything that I'm doing. But in the beginning, it was a little difficult, but it was to be expected.
Yeah, look, we have Angel Medina in the chat, who is a former ECW original who also trained at Gleason's, and he actually said Johnny trained him so well that he feels confident he can go back and kick Johnny's ass. Joke, he'll stretch me still.
I just came across pictures in my cell phone of Johnny stretching Charlie a couple years ago, so Johnny will still be there and stretch all of us.
Oh man, he's one guy that I'd really not want to get on his bad side. But as far as going out there and working on the indies, how did you, and obviously other promotions, how did you find at first? Was it challenging to get bookings, or was it something that because women's wrestling has really started to evolve majorly in the last several years, or were promoters looking for a lot of female wrestlers at the time?
So this was like late, September, towards the late end of 2016. Of course, I was, who the hell am I at the time? I had literally just started out, but I was getting a decent amount of bookings come locally in the East Coast. So it wasn't difficult, I would say. I would say that I was just so green in the business that I didn't really know who to reach out to, who to write to. I didn't have those connections.
Yep.
So it literally just was a matter of taking the time to find those connections and to actually look around the business, know what's running, know where I would need to get to, versus just not knowing any promotions in the area whatsoever.
Yeah, and like I suppose that as well, like promoters, everyone's heard those horror stories of how some promoters stiff guys and girls on money and other things like that as well. And I suppose that would probably be one thing playing in the back of your head as well, is like how do I know where I'm going? Who's the best who are the better promoters to work for? Who are the ones that I should try and steer away from, so to speak?
I wish that was my logic. Honestly, in the beginning, I was just taking bookings. So I have a couple of horror stories, if I may, but at the end of the day, it's all a lesson. And if you make money doing the show, then it's a funny story and you made money. So it's a win-win situation as long as no one breaks their legs.
Do you want to get in and tell us one or two of the horror stories that you've had with the indies, or do you want to sort of just bypass that? You don't want to.
I have a good one. So I to this day I have no idea who the hell booked the show, how the hell I got booked on the show. I don't even remember. I just remember like someone's like, yeah, we have this show in like Brooklyn, like luchadors, whatever, come down, you'll get paid, whatever. So but like me and a couple of other friends were booked on it, and we came down there. Jesus Christ, this was like the shittiest venue I've ever worked in, and I've worked in some really questionable places. So it's like a basement, and there may or may not have been like a bar or something, but the ring, I saw like it was set up when we came in, and then I see people start pulling like a blue tarp that you would see like covering a car, those like messed up plastic ones.
Yeah.
So they're pulling over the ring, and I'm asking, I'm like, yo, what's happening? Like, the ring's set up. Why are we covering it? They're like, yeah, there's like mites in the ring or something. Somebody got in there to roll around. They got like bugs on them. They're like, yeah, we're just going to cover it up. It's fine. So I'm already like, all right, this ain't it, guys. So then I look at the ceiling, and mind you, I'm 5'3", so the ceiling is like about to touch my head. So it can't be any taller than like 5'7" in that ring. And there's like pipes hanging down from the ceiling, and I just see a dude come, and he just takes a steel chair and he smacks the pipe so it leans over another pipe. He's like, "That's okay, no one's gonna hit that."
Oh.
there, there's no locker rooms. They turn 2 couches on their sides, put another blue tarp around them. They're like, "All right, go change over there," and put like a little a lantern in the middle of this section, like corner, and they start like setting chairs up. And I thought no one was gonna come, but people started showing up, so we all got into gear. The show started. God bless. I don't know how. And one of my friends went on before me, and he comes back and he's like, "I broke the ring," and I'm like, "What do you mean you broke the ring?" He did a cannonball and he put a dent in the actual floor of the ring, probably about 5 inches deep. So everyone's like, "Yeah, just avoid that one corner. Mind, like, forget the low ceiling, forget the bugs in the mat. There's like a human-sized 5-inch deep hole in the left corner." So we had to wrestle this match, and yeah, I ended up running into the damn corner with the hole anyways. But at that point, we were just happy to finish the match, having some crowd reactions and no one having injured themselves.
How many people did the show draw?
It had to be like 70 people or something. I was shocked the fact that anybody even turned out. And then I was like, listen, I got paid and I think we got some beer out of it. So I was like, we didn't break our legs, made some money, drank some beer. Thank God this show's over. And we never found out who ran it, and it like never ran again. So
seems like it was a win-win though. You got some beer, you got paid, and you got to wrestle. So
yeah, it was a win-win. It was just I was like the entire day I was just standing looking around like, what am I seeing this? Is anybody else seeing this shit?
Well, you know what? One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I found this little bit of information, is that even when you were wrestling over in the States, you didn't even have a car. So you were like hitchhiking to get to shows. You were getting like buses, trains, any means possible to get to shows. That would have been crazy. Like I can just imagine like you standing there with your bag over your shoulder, like thumb out, like trying to hitchhike to get to the next town for a wrestling show.
Still true. I still don't have a car and still gonna hitchhike to bookings or whatever when I get home. But yeah, so when I started, like when I came back from my Canadian tour in 2019, I hit the indies hard and I never had a ride. And I would have like triple shot weekends, like a town. I would start out in like Albany, go to Maine, go to Buffalo, and then have a booking in New Jersey within, this is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm telling you, I'd make these towns without a car. I would figure it out. I would call people up like, "Hey, are you wrestling on this show? Hey, do you live out that way? Hey, can I hop in your car?" I would find like $20 bus tickets from New York to Buffalo, have promoters pick me up when I would be going to Canada. Listen, I'm like the biggest entrepreneur of traveling without a car.
That's crazy. We actually have Chris Kennedy in the comments saying, "I say we start a GoFundMe for Masha to get a car."
Not against it.
not against it. We'll talk after the show, and I'm sure Chris we'll get Chris to sort of sort that out. But that's the thing. Like from getting from the shows to shows, were you just trying to get rides with the other wrestlers? Like you said, you were trying to find who was on this show. Obviously, that's a pretty good way to make friends. Just going up and going, "Hey, do you mind if I jump in your car for the next town?" Like, was that a way that also you were able to try and sort of get your name more out there as well? Like the more interacting with other talent.
It was definitely beneficial in that sense where I would interact and meet new people, I always say this. I'm like, the things that we do in wrestling are only acceptable in wrestling. Like, could you imagine working any other normal job and being like, "Yeah, I emailed this guy that my friend sent me. He's on the show, and I don't even know if it's a he or a she, but like they'll pick me up on Friday." In any other world, they're like, "You're gonna get kidnapped." I'm like, "Nah, it's wrestling. I wrestled a show with a guy he knows, so it's fine." Like, it's the brotherhood. But that's pretty much just what I did. I would find out, like, I would talk to a promoter, get booked. I'm like, "Oh, by the way, is anybody booked like in New York or New Jersey or somewhere close by?" I would even I would get like a $20 bus ticket to go to Albany, link up with people there, go up to Maine, for example, figure out if someone lives in the Midwest driving towards Buffalo, get dropped off in Buffalo. Then I'd have somebody heading down from Canada to New Jersey, meet up with them. Or I would have like a friend who also, like needs to make connections in the business. I'd be like, hey, just drive me to Buffalo real quick and you can do ring crew, So I would always try to make connections for myself, but if I could help somebody else out, of course I would be, happy to do the same thing. So scratch my back, I scratch yours. If we're scratching each other's backs, even better.
100%. But you know what? The fact that you would go to that length to just go and wrestle shows that your true passion for it. Because I think a lot of people would go, I don't have a car, can't get to this show. It's too hard. Put it in the too hard basket. I'll miss that show. But for you to have that determination, that drive to say, fuck it, let's go find out exactly where I need to go. How am I going to get there and make a way of getting there? It really shows for that perseverance and the determination that you have for the professional wrestling business to succeed in it. And I think that's the difference between people that do succeed in it and people who, dip the toe in, but never really reach their full potential to it. They can be great talents, but I think it comes down to the attitude as well.
I thank you for that comment. And I would have to say I agree because, I mean, I live in New York City. So if it's like a New York local area, I can reach it by train. There aren't many shows that run in the 5 boroughs. So if I was always just relying on, oh, if I don't have a car, I can't make it, I would have literally never wrestled anywhere. Like there's been so many times where I always, people are like, oh, your job is so easy. All you do is just wrestle. I'm like, I'm on my phone 24/7 half the time because after I get booked, I have to call up this person and call up that person and figure out how I'm going to get to this show and how I'm going to get back and all. That was 90% of the time that I spent busy on my phone was not actually wrestling related. It was travel related. But at the same time, it's all part of the journey. And one day I'm going to look back at it and it's going to be good stories the way it is now. So there's no regrets whatsoever. And if I would, and I probably will be doing that again anyways.
So I got to ask, what's your craziest road story? Like one of the ones that you just like look back at now and just go, what the fuck?
Man, there is always this one story that comes to mind. It was when I did the Ice Roads tour in Canada. Like if you've ever read like Edge and Christian's book and stuff, they did the Ice Road tours. It was that one. And so this was the 6-week long winter tour with CWF. And we were towards the tail end of it. We're going to our last town in Ontario before we were going to head off to Winnipeg. And this was like, we're heading towards the 3-day like vacation because we've never had a day off in like 6 weeks or something like that. So everyone's ready to, party and get wild in Winnipeg. So we're like, yeah, we're just going to make this one last town. We're going to go. It's going to be great. So we got from one of the towns we were working in, we got to this like middle point. I think it was called Pickle Lake. And we were basically waiting for clearance to hit this road, but it's not even a road. It's like we drive in the bush. Like it's literally like a roller coaster in a car. So it was supposed to take us about 6 hours or so to get from Pickle Lake to this last town that we were working in. But we had to basically stay the night in Pickle Lake because the road was like covered in snow. The other road had like a house that had fallen into the road because they move like houses on those like 18-wheelers, and it had like fallen through a bridge or like fallen through the snow. It blocks off the road. Whatever. So we're staying overnight in Pickle Lake. We're calling the person at the other town. They're like, yeah, we got clearance. Like you guys can go. It turned out that mindless, like forget the fact that we never got the damn clearance to hit the road. That road had never even been open in 2019, like ever. It was snowed in for the whole year. And they were like, yeah, it's cool. Come on down, guys. So we head off and there's no cell service. Like, we're literally in like the woods, like not even on a road, only service cars come here. So we're just going and going, and fuck, we get stuck in the snow. We're trying to push the ring van out. It's not going anywhere. We literally have to unload the entire ring van. We're taking out the ring post, the ring, all the lights, and like the trussing, because we have like a whole production set, Lord knows why. We take it all out. We push the van. We load the damn thing back in. We drive like 40 yards and we get stuck again. And this is the part where we're all like, fuck, man. So we figure out how to push the damn van out. And then we drive probably another like 200 yards and we get stuck again. And we're just, at this point, everyone's like, we're never going to fucking make it. The third time, somehow we managed to get it out. And then like the bus with all of us gets stuck. We push that thing out of it. And it's like midnight. It's already 6 hours in. We're not even halfway there. You know, we finally go and then we get stuck again. And like this time we're like, we can't. We're incapable of getting the damn thing out. And thank God there was like a service truck that was passing by. They hooked us on, pulled us out, and then we literally got stuck 2 more times going there. And like I would have to jump out of the van with the rope, and I'm like climbing under the ring truck, digging away in the snow, tying it up. I'm like, all right, guys, start pushing. So we're pushing from the back. We almost ran our promoter down once on accident because he didn't hear us say get out of the way.
Oh, Jesus.
It took us 12 hours to get there. We had to drive over maybe frozen, maybe halfway not frozen lake. And by the time we get out of the car, we're like ready to kiss the ground. It's been 12 hours. Oh. And everyone is just like, half the people went to sleep in like a gymnasium floor, and like the 3 of us are sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee. We're like, I don't even know what the fuck just happened. Like we're just at our wits end. We're like, we still have to get out of here. Like we got in. How the fuck are we gonna get out of here?
Oh my God, that is crazy. That like the point that you said, yeah, we drove over the frozen lake, well, maybe half frozen lake, that would have been terrifying in itself. Like I would like, yeah, where I'm from, I've never seen snow. And if someone said, yeah, maybe frozen, I'd be like, yeah, fuck this. I'm going the other way.
Well, because usually there's like a certain temperature that we consider safe to drive over the lakes. And it was kind of like nearing away from that temperature. So they were like, there's a little bit of water on the ice, you know. But at this point, we're just like, yo, we've been stuck like fucking 6 times tonight. We're like, we gonna cross this damn lake or we're gonna die in this van. Because I shit you not, there were like wolves howling. Like we would get out of the van to dig the van out, and we're like, there's like wolves out here. And my promoter, in the middle of us digging out the van, he found like like buns of hot dogs, like the bread. And he's like, oh, we're not going to need these, and just throws them in the woods. I'm like, are you serious? Like, what is happening? We're going to get eaten alive.
Oh, my God. That is crazy. That is ridiculous. But another thing I wanted to ask was, you know, you live over in Japan now, and, you know, you've been wrestling there for a little while. How did the move to Japan happen? Are you stuck over there from COVID and you're not allowed to come back, or is it just wrestling is still going on over there, and obviously in America and Canada wrestling has sort of been restricted a great deal? Where did the whole story of you know, living in Japan come from?
So I was originally coming here for 3 months, and right towards the end, I was already taking bookings for like WrestleMania weekends and all that good stuff. But I got an offer from Marvelous. They were like, hey, we don't usually offer this to people, but we want to keep you here. You know, we want you to keep training with us, keep doing shows, all that good stuff. So let us know if you want to stay. You know, so I took like a day to make I was like, yeah, I'm staying. Just like, yeah, I'll cancel my other bookings. Luckily, I didn't have to cancel anything. Well, not luckily, because COVID kind of canceled everything on its own. So I had just accepted to stay here right before like coronavirus just fucked everything. And I was like, yeah, I'll stay here for another 3 months. And I just kept extending. Like they were like, hey, do you want to keep staying? Like, oh, we'd like you to stay. And at this point, like when we go to extend, they're like, they don't even ask me. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna next time. Like they assume that I'm gonna stay here. And 3 months, like, hey, I'll be home in April. Hey, I'll be home in July, turned into I don't know if I'm ever coming home because we never stopped training because we live in the dojo, and shows started happening live in July. We were doing tapings from the dojo since May, I believe. So I've really been wrestling, thankfully, being with Marvelous like the entire year. And now that things are, cross my fingers, doing rather well here, I have absolutely no business leaving.
And how did you find going over into Japan? And obviously you said the stint was only originally for 3 months. How do you find the Japanese culture, and how did you find adapting to living in a foreign country, in also a country where that language isn't your first language?
I have always loved like Japanese culture and Japanese wrestling. And, thank God I had the first experience of being here on tour when I was 18. So I was almost kind of used to it because like having that be my first experience when I was 18, like immediately just coming to Japan, like I'd never wrestled. I'm like, this is my first experience. It kind
Yeah.
of felt natural to come back. I was like, oh, like I kind of know what to expect this time around. So, of course the language barrier is always going to be a little difficult. I'm definitely getting better with my Japanese, but it wasn't really much of a culture shock aside from all the food because I've eaten some really weird shit out here, but it's all delicious.
Yeah, I mean, Japanese food is amazing, and Japan, from everything that I've heard about, is one of those countries that everyone needs to go to and just experience, especially like Tokyo and places like that. Like for me, it's a bucket list place for me to go to. But in the comment section, Chris Kennedy just wanted to know what your thoughts were working with Jordan Grace.
That was actually another one of my what the fuck wrestling stories because I had no idea I was even booked that day. I was preparing to go wrestle for WSU in New Jersey, and at like 4:30, I forget who it was, but somebody from Impact called me. They're like, "Hey, where are you? Your match is at 6:45." And I'm like, "My what?" And I immediately, like, thank God I had my bag packed and I was dressed because I had just immediately got in the car and booked it over to the Melrose Ballroom. I called WSU. I'm like, hey, I can't make it tonight. Apparently I'm on Impact. I just ran into the door. I spoke to Jordan for like 10 to 15 minutes, and then immediately I had to like go into hair and makeup. And pretty much by the time I tied my boots on, they were like, all right, go in the gorilla, like you're going out. So actually working with Jordan was, it was great. I'm to this day I'm happy with how the match went, and I would love to wrestle her again. Hopefully be in an Impact or be it elsewhere. But it was definitely a very interesting day to say the least because I had like 10 seconds of preparation before I went out to the ring, and it went great, especially considering the circumstances.
That's mind-boggling, though. Like they're referring you, like, "Hey, by the way, where are you? You've got a match tonight on Impact." Like, was that like
nobody thought to call me earlier?
so? It wasn't pre-booked. It was just basically them. It was sprung on you last second.
Well, the thing is, I had done like a squash match with Jessica Havoc the night before because I had come to help set up and all that stuff. And they pulled me. They're like, "Hey, we need like a small size girl. Do you want to like do the show tonight?" I'm like, "Of course." And I just figured, hey, like I'm thankful that I even got booked last night. Like, thank you for the opportunity. I didn't know if they wanted me to come back the next day, and I had a booking, so I figured, I should stick with my booking. But apparently, they had decided that they wanted to see more of what I could do, and they decided to book me. Thank God. but I kind of wish I'd known. I would have shown up earlier.
Exactly. It's like they're like, but that's the thing. It's like, you should have just walked in there nonchalantly, just like, yeah, what's up, guys? Okay, cool. Like, yeah, I'm here. But and was there any discussion after that about potentially being signed to Impact?
There wasn't any like discussion about being signed. They of course I like viciously thanked everyone for calling me back and like letting me be there. I spoke to everybody there, and basically I was like, here's my contact. I would love to work with you guys, and here we are. I live in Japan now.
But look, that's definitely one aspect of it, and the fact is, you're still very young. Where it's like at the moment, there's so many opportunities for wrestling, especially around the world, with the amount of promotions that are out and going, and everything is on. Well, pre-COVID was going at a very high level worldwide. So there's definitely going to be opportunities for someone like you who is so determined to make it in the pro wrestling business. When you broke into wrestling, did you ever sit down and give yourself like a set of goals or places that you wanted to hit in X amount of time or throughout your career? Was it like, right, 2 years in, I want to be here, I want to have done this at this point, or like in my career, I want to be here and here, I want to achieve these things?
Honestly, I guess, I don't know, it's like a little weird to say it, but when I started out, I thought I was never going to make it, because as much as people tell me that they were like, you're so good, you have natural ability, like you work hard, even Johnny sending me to Japan and stuff, I still thought, I was like, I don't deserve it. It was just like my luck. I never thought I would make it this far. Like, if you would have told me that in almost 6 years that I would do all of this, I'd have told you were on drugs. I never had any like set goals. Like, I want to work for this promotion, mainly because I'm kind of ignorant about what is going on in the wrestling world. And especially I was back then. I didn't know what the big promotions were, aside from like WWE and like TNA. I didn't know about like Limitless or Beyond, because I literally just didn't keep up with any of that. I was so busy actually training in the ring that I was ignorant of the social aspect of it. And it only really started picking up like, I remember last year when I got booked on WWR.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, oh, are you like just debuting? Where'd you come from? I'm like, no, I've been wrestling, just not in America, because, somehow I would just end up working in all these other countries for such long stretches of time. I literally just actually spent very little time wrestling in the United States up until last year. So I never really had goals, because A, I didn't know where to aim, and B, I was literally just never in the country to actually follow up with any of that.
So where you're at now in your career, do you have any goals set?
I definitely, now being not ignorant, not as ignorant with things, I have goals and like promotions I want to work and things I want to do, especially being in Japan. My goal is to wrestle in Japan. Now I live here, so I have goals that are set within Japan. I also have goals that I would like to achieve in the United States, and I would also just like to continue traveling the world and seeing what it brings me next, because I never knew, and apparently I still don't know. Like Johnny Rod says, when you think you know, you still don't know, and when you know, you still don't know. So I don't know shit, and life will just bring me things. I work hard, and things will bring themselves upon you if you work hard. That's my belief.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, you put the work in, the rewards will come eventually, and it's like anything in life. If you put the effort in, and you're determined to make a career out of it, which very clearly that you are, you're definitely going to see the rewards. as far as, major promotions go, if WWE came calling to you tomorrow, would that be somewhere where you'd want to go to, or would you rather still continue to go and work, I don't want to say smaller promotions, but work in other promotions and season yourself more before you go to somewhere like WWE?
If that opportunity came to my door, that would be a discussion that I have with those people. I would weigh the good and the bad, or however you want to phrase that. And if it works, it works. I would go there. If somebody else called me, again, it would be me taking into consideration all the all the pointers or whatever. Sometimes I forget my English, but yeah, it would be like weighing the good and the bad, and pretty much that would be for any promotion: AEW, WWE, Impact, anybody.
Yeah, and I think it would also be like, how the lifestyle as well. It's like, okay, if you go sign with someone like WWE, you're in NXT, you're living in Florida, you're doing this, and you're training every single day, which obviously you're still doing now over in Japan, but it's like that different lifestyle compared to Japan being in the United States, Australia, Mexico, and all these different types of places as well. So, I think you probably would look at like where you want to live in your life at that particular time, and if the time was right for you to go and be living in the United States as well.
I always like to say there was this show that ran in Canada and in Russia. I believe it was like in the 80s and like the 90s. It was called The Littlest Hobo. I don't know if you know the show.
No,
but it was about like a dog who he would like go and pretty much just like help a person and just keep roaming and like never stay in one place. And I'd always joke and say that like, hey, I'm pretty much like the littlest hobo because I pretty much I live on the road, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't particularly want to like live in one place for so long. I'm good spending 3 months here, 4 months there, boom, just keep traveling and seeing the world, wrestling in new places, making a name for myself everywhere. I'd be very, very content doing that.
Is there any place in the world particularly where you'd still like to go and wrestle that you haven't yet?
Definitely. I have yet to go to Mexico, and I've yet to go to Australia. So those are definitely two of the country-wise places that I'm looking at going to wrestle after this pandemic, I guess.
And who would you want to wrestle over in Mexico? Who would be the top of your list over there?
I don't really have like a list. I'd like to wrestle anybody, especially considering that my style is very much mat based and I don't go bouncing around the ropes. I would like to go and learn to do some of that stuff and pray to God not break my damn neck doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. And one of the things that we were talking about before we went live is I was watching quite a few of your matches this week leading up to the interview, and I really like your ring style. It's really aggressive. It's really hard hitting. And, as you mentioned, it's not the high flying style. It's that real mat based chain style wrestling, hard hitting style, which, predominantly you don't see a lot of females working the style that you do. So it's really unique to see, and it's really refreshing to see as well, because it's not just about doing as many spots as you can, but telling a great story. And seeing your matches and watching quite a few of them over the past few days, I've really seen how well you tell a story in the ring. And to me, that's the biggest thing. As a wrestling fan, I like to be invested, and to be able to sit down and watch one of your matches, I really can get invested in it.
Well, thank you so much, because clearly I'm getting across what I want to get across from you saying that. So it means I'm doing the right thing. If you're saying that, that means I've been doing the right thing. So thank you for that. And I'm glad that my style stands out and the aggression is coming through, because that's 90% of it is the intensity of the aggression and me just punching you in the face, essentially.
Well, you definitely live up to the nickname, the Russian Dynamite. Like when I heard the announcer, I was like, okay, let's do that. Then I saw the match. I was like, holy shit. Like me and my wife were watching a match, and I was legit sitting on the edge of my seat, and my wife's like, you're getting into this match, like, you know what I mean? Because she sees me watch every single style of wrestling, and even she, who isn't a wrestling fan, she was getting into it. She's like, man, this chick is tough. Like, who is this? I go, that's who I'm talking to tomorrow night. And she's like, oh, damn, don't piss her off. And I'm like, I don't plan on it.
Well, that makes me very happy to hear that. And you'll be seeing more of that, hopefully one day in person in Australia.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's another thing. You know, you mentioned, you know, coming to Australia and wrestling over here. And I think that your style with a lot of the Australian wrestling style that's going on now, and a lot of the men and women that are currently on the scene in Sydney, Melbourne, and all around Australia, you'd be able to come on and put on some amazing matches with some of the talent down here. And I think that that'd definitely be phenomenal. I would definitely make sure that I have a ticket. I'd be like front row going, yeah, go Masha. Just don't hit me in the face.
Well,
but sorry, what was that?
I said, well, maybe then don't sit in the front row.
Fair enough. I'll sit in the nosebleed section so I don't get a nosebleed. But it is that time of the show. I did mention to Masha that we do play a little game here called Guess the Aussie Slang. So, have you ever been to Australia previously, Masha?
I have not. I can't wait to butcher the shit out of this.
Okay. Have you ever met any Australians? Are you friends with any Australians?
Well, as we spoke before we started, I've hung out with Mick Moretti in the States, so he's about as Australian as it gets.
He definitely is. He definitely is. So we'll get into it. So maybe you've heard a few of these words. So the first word I'm going to use, and I'm going to use it, I'll put it in a sentence and you can tell me what it means. Okay.
Oh.
So the first one is the word crikey. Crikey. That was a great match.
So that's like an exclamation or like a oh shit, but in a positive way, like exclamation, I guess, is like the way I would describe that.
It's like an excellent surprise.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So okay, another one. I gotta go clean my Dax. Dax.
Is that? Oh well, that's a sentence. Yeah.
Dax is the slang word. Dax.
Yeah.
D-A-K-S.
What in God's name is that? Is that like your ass? Like.
No, Dax is like a pair of trousers. So a pair of pants, essentially. Okay.
Close. So, it was the ass, but they cover the ass.
Yeah. No, it covers the whole ass and legs and everything. So next is Devo. Oh, I'm so Devo about that.
Man, I've heard that one used and I forgot what the hell it means. So I have no idea what that means.
It's all good. It means devastated.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes so much sense.
All right. So next one is Macca's. I'm heading up to Macca's. Do you want anything?
Is that how y'all say McDonald's?
That's exactly how we say McDonald's. There you go. So you got a few of them. Where's your dunny? Dunny. Where is your dunny?
Dunny. Is that like being like, where's your head at? Or like where your brain is? Like, are you stupid or something?
Close. Where's your toilet?
Oh.
All right. So, hey, did you see this on Facey?
Well, that's got to be Facebook, right? Or like the television, but I would say it's Facebook.
Yeah, no, it's Facebook. So, all right. So we've got a couple more here. Can you grab the esky?
Is that a drink?
It is a cooler that you put ice. It's like a box that you put ice in and put drinks in to keep them cold.
Yeah, I don't even know how to say that in English. There's a word for it, but
all right. No wuckers, mate.
Shit. Can you repeat the sentence?
No wuckers.
Like no way? Is that what it is?
No, it's a truly Aussie way to say no worries, mate.
Oh. Yeah, I've never heard that one actually.
All right, so here's another one. Budgie smuggler. I'll use it in a sentence. Oh shit, Dad's outside. He's in his budgie smuggler.
All I know is that budgies are parakeets, so I'm really thrown off by this.
So a budgie smuggler is a Speedo for men.
Oh, that's funny.
It's because, yeah, when you get out of the water, it looks like, well, yeah, anyway, I don't need to go into the detail of that. All right, so we'll go a couple more. Hey, Masha, you want to get on the piss?
Oh, is that like do you want to get drunk?
Yeah, like get on the piss, have a piss up. So
Yeah.
it's funny whenever I speak to like friends of mine that in America, they go, "Oh, what are you going to do this weekend?" It's like, "Oh, not much. I'm just going to hang out at home and drink some piss." And they're like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "Oh, that's right. You're not Australian. You don't get that." Okay. So, all right. So we'll go another one. I'm rooted.
Must be like you're tired or like you're worn out.
Yeah, tired or broken. Tired or broken. So we'll go one more because I reckon you'll be able to smash this one. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to have a sickie.
Is that a joint?
Oh, I'll put in a thing. I'm gonna chuck a sickie tomorrow.
Is that a beer or like a drink, right?
No, a sick day is like when you're calling in work and you're gonna call in sick. Like I can't make it into work.
I thought you were saying the word with a Z. So
No,
I'm deaf.
sick. No, that's okay. But that's been Guess the Aussie Slang Game. But Masha, where can everyone find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they support you? Buy your merch? Can you please let everyone know?
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Masha Slamovich. I am also on ProWrestlingTees.com/Masha That's where all of my t-shirts are available. And if you would like to purchase 8x10s or pins, I have new pins, I have new 8x10s, whatever, you can direct message me on Twitter or Instagram, or even like, what is it, your Facebook fan page at Masha Slamovich. You can write me in all of these places for merch that is not t-shirts, which again, those are ProWrestlingTees.com/Masha Slamovich.
There you go, guys. And we'll definitely post all of those links in our Facebook group, and we'll also put it in our Instagram, Twitter, and we'll put in the comments on this YouTube video as well, guys, as well. So you can find everywhere you can support Masha. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an amazing time sitting here talking to you, and we definitely have to do a part 2 of this somewhere down the line. Masha, it's been an amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everyone who joined us live and people who are going to be watching this post interview. But also make sure that you click subscribe to our YouTube channel somewhere around there or down here, wherever it is. Hit that like button, smash that like button so everyone knows how good this show is. Guys, I just want to say a quick thanks to our sponsors again, to WASAF Championship Belts, also to A-Rock Designs and Signal Studios, the supporting the show and sponsoring the show for so long and keeping this show going and running. I really appreciate that. Also, head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/MWA World so you can get some of our fabulous merch. But until next time, guys, I'm Piers Austin. This has been Masha Slamovich, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a great night.
Thanks very much. Oh, I'm running late. There you go. We'll get there.